Welcome back to Call Class. My name is Evan Hale. Today we got a very special episode. We got a trade deadline episode. It's the whole NBA talking today, not just the Hornets like we have been kind of recently. We're going to be talking about the trade deadline and all 25 trades that happened and the winners, the losers. We're going to grade every single trade from both sides. So it's going to be a little bit longer video. There's a chance it's the longest video ever made. It's not like a podcast with another person. 25 trades. We're going to go pretty much chronological order. We're going to start off with a month before the trade deadline. We're going to count the Trae Young trade to the Wizards in this. The Wizards, they trade for Trae Young and they give up CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. For the Wizards, I gave it an A. It's like minimal risk here. You have CJ McCollum, an expiring contract, and Corey Kispert, just a good shooter for you. And you get Trae Young back, who admittedly has been a down guy, over the last year and some change. Defense can be questionable, but God, he's such a good facilitator. He's led the league in assists multiple times now to set up your young guys, and I think he's going to sit most of the year this year. So you're still going to tank. You're still going to get a good pick. Obviously, more moves later we'll talk about, but it's a huge get. And then for the Hawks, I gave him a C+. Trae Young is your franchise player, and I understand the deficits. I understand it. I get it. I cover the Hawks. One of my jobs. But you get CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert back. CJ, I'm not even sure you're going to re-sign him, and I get you want the cap flexibility. Like I've seen that over and over, cap flexibility. But Trae Young is your franchise player. You're giving him up. It's just tough, to give up your franchise player is just one of those things. It's unfortunate. I got to go a little faster because, like I said, this is going to be a long video. We already Trae Young trade's been talked about before. I've talked about it myself on short form. Please follow my short forms while you're here. While I got you, I'm on TikTok. I'm on Twitter. Not much Twitter as much my personals, but TikTok, I'm on Instagram, I'm on YouTube. I have the shorts. So just make sure you're following and leave a like while you're watching this if you like it, please, because it means a lot. And I'm trying to get that content out. Next trade to happen in the trade deadline. A couple days before the deadline, we had the Cavs getting Schroeder and Keon Ellis, and I had the Kings getting DeAndre Hunter for the Cavs. For the Cavs, I gave it an A. I love to get in the guard depth. They make another guard trade later we'll talk about. You take a swing on a young Keon Ellis, who I think he's a good defender. The Kings weren't using him enough. I'm very happy that you got him in that trade. Super exciting for that. You get depth and you just good additions for the Cavs there. And for the Kings, I give him a B. Got one more year on the deal for Hunter. I do like him as some value at the wing. And they kind of look to pivot a little bit. Like a bunch of your older guys are kind of expiring and they aren't playing very good, which is part of the reason why they didn't trade them. I'm pretty sure because they haven't been playing well. So just keep tanking like that. I think they're the worst team in the NBA currently. I'm recording this at 11 o'clock at night on February 7th. So currently the worst team in the NBA. But yeah, no, they, yeah. Oh, and then also the Bulls are in here too. Didn't even look at that. I didn't have that for some reason. I got it's here. They can receive Dario Saric in 2 seconds, 2027, 2029. Give the Bulls an A, take on a contract, and you get a couple picks. Also, Dario Saric is rerouted in a later moment, like a later pick trade. So we'll see that too, which is also I give him an A because they do get a good player out of him. The next trade to happen, trade number 3, we got the Blazers getting Vit Krejci, and the Hawks getting Duop Reith, who was bought out, and then 2 seconds in 2027, 2030. Gave the Blazers a B+. They traded a center. They got 1,000 of those guys, and also Duop Reith was out for the season. And you got a good shooting off your bench. Vit's had a really good year with the Hawks. Good floor spacing for Denny, for Shaden, for Klingon. These guys who've been doing really well this year. You give them another shooter around. Just as you also add Scoot Henderson coming back. They've had a rough couple of games, like a rough patch here as I'm recording this, but I like the Blazers a lot. And like their future, and V's going to add that. And then for the Hawks, I gave him a B. I like V's fit on the team, but you also did just get Kispert with the Trae Young trade, so I understand why you're moving on from V's in that mold because you already have Kispert, who is the best player of that mold, and maybe in the NBA, in my personal opinion. Made him expendable. You get a couple seconds out of him, so I don't hate it. Could have even given that a B+. But yeah, then we get the first big trade of the deadline, like the deadline, not just a Trae Young trade. It was a month before. You got the Grizzlies getting Kyle Anderson, Walter Clayton Jr., Taylor Hendricks, and George Niang. as well as three firsts, which are the 2027 most favorable for the Jazz, Cavs, and Wolves. 2027 Lakers top 4 protected, and 2021 Suns unprotected. And then the Jazz, they go out and they get Jaren Jackson Jr., John Conchar, Vince Williams Jr., and Chuck Landell, who was later rerouted. For the Grizzlies, I gave him an A, man. Between the Bane and the Jaren Jackson trade, you've got 7 first-round picks. You also did get a Jazz pick, which is nice next year, the best of. So let's say the Jazz, the Cavs, the Wolves, like any of them have a bad year, you're going to get the best pick out of that. And you know, they are a team like you. We're going to talk about the Bulls a lot today because the Bulls made a lot of trades. Teams like the Bulls, they wait too long to sell on their guys when they realize they can't win. And the Grizzlies were a 2 seed in 2022, I believe, maybe 2023, 2022. I'm pretty sure, and they have not been competitive since then, like to a full degree. And they realize they can't win with their current core, and now they're selling. They're selling high on their assets. And Jaren Jackson Jr. is a guy they sold high on, and I love that they did. You also are getting back Walter Clayton Jr. and Taylor Hendricks, who are 2 really good young guys, as well as George Yang and Kyle Anderson, 2 vets. And then some good picks. You know, a good pick and a couple like 2027 Lakers. I'm assuming they're going to be good next year, but you know, let's say that anything happens, LeBron leaves, they don't get anybody back for him, Luka gets hurt, you know, things can happen. Top 4 protected. That 2031 Suns pick, 2031, that's like a 15-year-old, 14-year-old. We don't know what's that's gonna be it. I don't know how the NBA is gonna be. I gave the Jazz a B+. The Jazz only gave them 1 like real pick in that, like that's kind of their own. The other picks, I think they got the Lakers one in the Luka trade, but they just took on a contract in that. And then they got the Sun trade. I don't remember what they got. I think the Suns, they gave up like 2 fake firsts or 3 fake firsts to get that Suns pick. So you give up 2 picks that aren't your own that you got from nothing trades, as well as 1 pick that is your own, and a couple of young guys that are kind of lower in the pecking order because you know Walter Clayton Jr. is behind Keontae George, behind Isaiah Collier. So, you know, he's kind of a lower guy, and then he's a rookie. And then you have like guys like Bryce Sensabaugh and then Ace Bailey, who are these kind of wings who are ascending. And then now you've added Jaren Jackson and Larry Markin, and you have as well. Taylor Hendricks is on that lower tier for them as well. So you go with the young guys who weren't going to play as much, and you go get Jaren Jackson Jr., who's a guy. It's going to be hard for Utah to pursue a free agent as good as Jaren. And those picks, you hope to draft a guy as good as Jaren Jackson Jr., so just go get him. And they did. And now you're going to have like Keontae George, Ace Bailey, Larry Markkinen, who we know can run the 3 because he did in Cleveland. You get Jaren Jackson Jr. and Walker Kessler. That's a good, fun defensive lineup. That's some upside on offense. It's going to be fun next year. I don't know how they're going to play. Them and the Wizards are the most interesting teams to me next season after the trade deadline. And then the Bulls, that Dario Saric move comes back here that was rerouted from a previous trade. The Bulls received Jaden Ivey and Mike Conley. And the Pistons received Kevin Huerter, Dario Saric, and a Wolves first. And the Wolves received cash in the trade. So the Bulls, they trade Dario Saric, who they just got for free, and with some picks. They trade Kevin Huerter, who, you know, bench shooter for you. And they keep the 2 seconds they got with Dario Saric, and they add Jaden Ivey, and then Mike Conley, who they eventually move later, which we'll talk about again. So you basically trade Kevin Huerter for Jaden Ivey in 2 seconds. That's some great value in a vacuum. We do know that the Bulls had a lot of guards. I think they genuinely have 10 guards at the end of the trade deadline. We'll talk about that more. So I give them a B+. This trade in a vacuum is an A+ for me, just in a vacuum. But you know, you do get some future assets. You do get a young player. You do have to pay. The Pistons didn't want to pay him, which we'll talk about with the Pistons. So I gave him a B-. But Chicago, it's I don't love it. I mean, I don't hate it. It's definitely good. It'd be a lot better if you didn't also add like 1,000 guards, so you didn't move off from after. But because I know we'll talk about the other guards later. I know that they weren't trying to trade Jaden. They were trying to trade the other guards they acquired at the deadline. So I think he was one of the guys who wanted here to stay. So that's why I gave it a B+. Give the Pistons a B-. You get a Wolves first this year, which is going to be like 20, pick like 25, 24. You get Dario Saric, Kevin Huerter, just some depth for you, good shooting for you. Dario Saric is like, you know, back of the bench center for you. And the assumption was for me that Ivy wasn't going to resign in the Pistons. Like they didn't want to pay him. So you give up a guy you probably weren't going to retain anyways. You get a first. You get some depth for this playoff run. Like I don't hate it for him. You know, B-. could be higher if they make a run and Herder and Sarge are useful. And then that pick, the Wolves, this is a deep draft, so you can steal somebody. And the Timberwolves, I gave him a C plus, and that's a C plus with the knowledge that Mike Conley is later traded again and bought out and then re-signs with the Minnesota. So they basically traded a first round pick and Mike Conley. We're just basically traded a first round pick to save money, which I understand. This could probably be a B minus too. Like it's it's going to be like a high 20s, mid 20s draft, but get Mike Conley back for the low, which is nice. So you guys duck some money on the cap there, which is kind of nice. Bulls, another trade here. They acquire another guard. Bulls receive Anthony Simons and a second rounder, and the Celtics receive Nikola Vucevic and a second rounder. I gave the Bulls a C minus on this one because they get another guard. And there are reports where they tried to move him, but nobody wanted him, and that was the issue with the Celtics. The only team that wanted Anthony Simons was the Bulls. It was just to reroute him, and they couldn't reroute him. And I give it also a C minus because the reports were they could have gotten multiple firsts, or at least a first for Vucevic last year, and maybe even more for the year before. But like I said, like what I was talking about with the Grizzlies did not wait to sell their guys. The Bulls did. Now you're seeing that. They've made a lot of bad trades this deadline, especially with context. And you will see that context in the grades. But now you're swapping seconds. So you're getting Anthony Simons you didn't even want back. And you're sending a second to get a second back. That's kind of embarrassing for the Bulls, but at least you're resetting. The Celtics, because they give Vucevic and a second rounder, they get an A minus. He played his first game last night, had some big minutes, helped them come back and beat the Heat after being down by like 20 something. The Celtics added a real big, which they needed. Dominguez Queta, he's had a really good year this year for what he's had to do, but you had a real center, especially with the playoffs looming and a playoff run coming. And Simons was an expiring deal, so you probably weren't going to resign him anyways if that's how you're getting rid of him. So you get a real big, for a guy you're not going to resign, and you also like swap seconds. So this could even be higher than an A minus if they have a run in the playoffs here, and he's like contributes to that. So that's exciting. So next we have trade number 7. We're burning through these. So this is exciting. It's a big one too. Clippers received Darius Garland and a 2026 second round pick. Cavs received James Harden. I gave the Clippers a B plus for this. The Clippers blew it up the deadline. Sold kind of high like they should have. After not looking that good to start the year, they kind of come back, become the 11th seed in the West. I think maybe even the 10th seed. But the Thunder owned their pick, which is a little scary because it was like the worst. They were like the second or third worst team in the NBA to start the year, but they've since fought back. And Kawhi's made some comments about how he wished they would have fought a little harder to stay together. But they sold high, and they ended up getting Darius Garland back for Harden. And obviously, Harden's a better player, but you get a guy who's 26 years old. You kind of build around a little bit for the future, and he can grow with the roster. They added a couple other young guys later in the trade deadline to kind of build around for the future, and I'm excited to see that. And then the Cavs, you get a win now player. He's having a career resurgence this year. And I think Garland's not a very good defender. Harden's not a very good defender. You kind of even it out on defense. And you get a guy who's better on offense for the playoff push. And, push for potentially chasing a ring here. So, I gave it a B. Could be better if they have a run, but just blanket B here. I tried not to be too harsh on teams. I was more monotone on my picks here for the grading. And then we get the Wizards making a big deal here. They get Anthony Davis, Jaden Hardy, D'Angelo Russell, and Dot Jackson. They send to the Mavericks for this deal Chris Middleton, who's expiring, AJ Johnson, Marvin Bagley, and then Malachi Branham, who is later rerouted, as well as 2 firsts, the Thunder pick this year, and a top 20 protected 2030 Warriors pick, and then 3 second-round picks. Gave the Mavs a D. And I gave the Mavs a D for a specific reason. It's because this is kind of what you got back for the Luka trade. That's embarrassing. It's just embarrassing. I know this front office had to deal with what Nico did, and, it's not their fault that Luka's gone, but because of everything, I have to give him a D. In a vacuum, this might be like a B. But with the Luka trades, you get a couple fake firsts. That's going to be the 30th pick in this draft. I also didn't mention the one good thing. I should probably give the Vucevic Bulls trade a little bit higher grade because I think it's the Pelicans second that they got back. I'm gonna give them a C instead of C minus for the Bulls one because it's gonna be like the 31st pick. It's kind of like it's like a fake first, second round pick, but you're gonna get 30th pick and then a Warriors top 20 protected pick in 2031. Steph's probably gonna be gone at that point. The next pick's probably gonna be top 20. Um, yeah, it's just not great. And then I might be a little high on the Wizards, but I gave him an A. The Chris Middleton, AJ Johnson are the guys who got back for Kuzma. So basically, you traded Kuzma, a couple of bench players, like Marvin Bagley and Malachi Branham, who, Marvin Bagley's had a decent season for the Wizards, don't get me wrong, but a couple guys who come off your bench, Kyle Kuzma, essentially, a couple firsts you got for like taking on contracts, and then seconds to pair AD with Trae Young next year with your young roster that's been really fun this year. I love that they took a swing. I love that. If it doesn't work, you can extend Trae Young and AD like during the season next year. They both expire next year. So you can extend them then. If it doesn't work out, you don't re-sign them and you have a bunch of cap space. And DC is a spot where you could get some free agents, especially with a fun young roster. If they overperform next year, especially, I can guarantee you could throw some money at some unrestricted free agents in 2027. Or also, like, it's a big free agency class 2027. So, I like the moves personally. I think it's gonna be fun for them. I do not love the move for Dallas Mavericks. I understand you had to trade AD, but just don't love the return, and especially with the Luka trade, it's kind of embarrassing to be honest with you. And I'm sorry, Mavericks fans, you feeling it more than anybody else is. Okay, trade number 9 now. Thunder received Jared McCain, and the Sixers received the Houston first this year in 3 seconds. I gave the Thunder an A. You trade a low tier first round pick this year. It's gonna be like the end of the first round, and then a couple seconds, and when you have a treasure trove of picks, this is the first time I've seen a pick leave the Thunder forever. But for Jared McCain, who has a real upside as a shooter and a scorer, and think about the start of his career, their shooting is a weak point. And the start of his rookie year, I mean, he was in first in the rookie of the year voting. He had like multiple 30-point games. He was awesome. They tore his ACL and it lowered his value. And I understand that, but I mean, I don't know. I think he's worth more than what he got back. And it's funny though because Daryl Morey doesn't think that. I gave the Sixers a C because I wanted to see them see McCain through a little bit more. And then Daryl Morey said, I said they gave him up early on him. But Daryl Morey said they sold high on Jared McCain, which essentially saying this is going to be like he's only going to get worse from here. And I just disagree with that. I think he's going to improve. He hasn't had the best start of the year, but I don't think he's had a lot of opportunity to. VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey have been doing so well this year that he's just been buried, unfortunately, and that sucks. And I think that the Thunder are going to give him a real chance to do something, and that's very exciting to see. So I give the Sixers a C, Thunder A. I give them an A plus, honestly. I love the risk. Here come them Hornets, though. I'm going to be a little homer when I do this. The Bulls receive pick 10. I mean, trade 10. Bulls receive Colin Sexton, Ousmane Dieng, who's rerouted, and 2 second-round picks. The Hornets receive Kobe White and Mike Conley, who was waived and re-signed to Minnesota, and a second-round pick. The Thunder receive Mason Plumlee, who was waived. We'll start with the Thunder. They give a second-round pick to get off of a little bit of money on Ousmane Dieng, and then they could just cut the vet min, which for cheaper, of Mason Plumlee. Nothing crazy. They have a bunch of picks. It's whatever. No big deal. I gave the Thunder a C. I gave the Bulls a D. The context of the previous offers of Kobe White are why I gave it a D. 2 years ago, a year ago, you could have gotten a first or multiple firsts. There were reports they were offering 2 firsts for Kobe White last year. They waited for him to become expiring, and they knew he probably wasn't going to resign. And they dump him for a couple seconds in an expiring deal. when you could have gotten multiple for him blowing up roster. There was a picture. It was Lonzo Ball. It was Lonzo. It was Caruso. It was DeMar, Zach LaVine, Kobe White, Aydosumu. The picture of all of them, and Vucevic, all of them. Like a line that says the Bulls received no first round picks for any of these guys. That's crazy to me. That's crazy to me. And this is the culmination of that. So I gave him a D. I can give him an F, honestly. But then I give my Hornets an A. And I'm not even being a homer here. I'm not just repping this stuff because I love my Hornets. The Hornets earned an A. And here's why. I'm gonna gush for a second. Because the Hornets traded Colin Sexton in like a second for this trade. Because one of the seconds, or 2 seconds for this trade. But they took off some seconds, a lot of seconds this deadline anyway. So basically, they didn't give up any draft capital in this trade. The Hornets gained draft capital during the deadline. A year ago, the last deadline, the Hornets traded Vasiljevic. They traded Cody Martin, both guys who are out of the league right now. They traded them to Phoenix for Jusuf Nurkic and a first-round pick. Right? Nurkic and a first. You take those two in. Nurkic finishes the year for the Hornets. Fine time. He was fun. Got to meet him. Seemed to like Charlotte, but, it's a business. This summer, they trade Nurkic to Utah for Sexton and a second. They get a pick in the trade. Sexton and a second. If you want to add that here to this trade, I don't know which seconds they gave up. ESPN didn't tell me. So then the season starts. Hornets doing okay, and then they have this run they're on right now. And the Hornets talked about they want Kobe White. They wanted to re-sign him. They wanted to sign him this offseason. You trade Sexton, who you got, for this chain that I've talked about, and one other second with the second you got for Kobe White. So if you want to zoom out in a vacuum, like just that one line of trades, you traded Vasiljevic, Cody Martin, and a second-round pick for Kobe White in a first. Kobe White, who looks like he's probably going to resign in Charlotte. That's what the kind of the reports are. Like the Hornets are going to do everything to resign him, and they want to resign him. Even if they don't resign him, he's a better version of Colin Sexton for the rest of this year when the Hornets are making a playoff push. They're currently half game back from the 9th seed after they just won the 9th straight game against the Hawks tonight. That's the team ahead of them. So you do all this, right? It's just craziness. Like you get Kobe White in a first, and Kobe White could have gone for 2 firsts last year. It's insane. I give him an A. I could give him an A plus. And if they re-sign Kobe White, like I think they will, it's an A plus because he's going to be your 6th man in the future. And with how guys like him have re-signed, you're going to get a pretty decent deal on him, if I had to guess. And he's going to be your backup point guard of the future on a team who shoots so many 3-pointers. I think the Hornets have 4 of the top 20 highest 3-point shooting guys. And Sexton shot a little bit higher of a clip from 3 than Kobe White, like percentage-wise. But Kobe shoots a heck of a lot more of them and is a lot more skilled. He averages more assists, and he does a lot more on his points per shot attempt and all that stuff. And he's averaging 19 points a game. And it's just awesome, and I'm very, very excited for this team. Anyways, I wanted to gush about the Hornets because this is a full NBA video, but I love my Hornets. Trade 11. The Nets, they receive Ochai Agbaji in a second. Clippers receive the draft rights to Vanja Marinkovic, and Raptors receive Chris Paul. So the Raptors, I'm going to start with them. I gave them a B-. They got off a little bit of money with Ochai Agbaji, and they're going to Chris Paul. He's never going to pay for him. Give him a little bit of money. The Nets, they gave an A. You get a second-round pick and a young guy in Ochai Agbaji, who, you have a lot of young guys on the roster. It's going to be a little fun. He's a fun guy to watch play. It might be a little bit high of a grade, but I think he'll fit with what the Nets are trying to do a little bit here. I like his fit. And then for the Clippers, I give him a C. You essentially open up a roster spot, taking on the draft rights. It's pretty much a nothing trade because they already did essentially cut Chris Paul. I gave him a C more to, because it's just a nothing trade. I feel like when trades are nothing, you get a C. I think that's fair. It's like an average, season average here. Trade 12. Another big one here. The Jonathan Kuminga saga ends. The Hawks receive Jonathan Kuminga and Buddy Hield, and the Warriors receive Kristaps Porzingis. gave the Hawks a B plus. You get a Kuminga in, and I think people forget how good Kuminga was to start the year before he got put on the bench. He got hurt, and they never let him come back. Essentially, they kept him on the bench a bunch. And I think he can benefit from chasing. I think he's going to be a five. I think the Warriors were suffocating him. And I think the Hawks, the way they play, they're fast paced. They move the ball. I think he could be a guy who fits that, especially off the bench. You're going to have less responsibilities for him, less looking at it. People aren't going to be as crazy like staring at him, judging his box scores. I think he's going to be good. And Porzingis only played 17 games for the Hawks. And they got a first in taking him on. So, you already kind of got your value back in Porzingis. You wanted it to work, but he's only played 17 games. He's struggling with Potts, and you worry about him. But, it's okay. And I think Kuminga's contract next year is like a team option. So if you don't like Kuminga, you don't have to bring him back. And then you get Buddy Hield, who's just, kind of like a nothing part of the trade, just to make the contract fit. Another shooter off the bench if you want to play him. I don't know if he's going to play much in Atlanta. And the Warriors, they get Kristaps Porzingis. I gave it a C plus, but it could be higher. Porzingis has been battling Potts all year, which is tough. Potts is a really difficult disease for basketball because it's postural orthostatic something syndrome, tachycardia syndrome. So your blood pressure drops, your heart rate shoots up when you change your posture. You move around, change your posture a lot in basketball, and you get really lightheaded. You feel like you're gonna pass out. It's tough. It makes you basically faint at times, and it can affect basketball players, especially because if you're 7 foot tall too, you get blood all up your brain. Like it's gonna affect you. But if he can be healthy, especially in the postseason, this is the perfect fit for the Warriors. A 7'4" freak who can play defense, hit threes. That's what Steph and the Warriors are needed. And you also get rid of that Kuminga distraction. So I could probably get this higher than a C plus, just off the rip. But if Porzingis stays healthy through the playoffs, then this could be an A plus trade. Jimmy's not healthy right now, because if you had this roster with Porzingis and Jimmy, they could be a sneaky team in the West, especially with how the Thunder are skidding a little bit right now. And then I got trade 13. I mentioned Jock Landale before. He was part of the previous trade. Well, the Jazz reroute him to the Hawks. And the Jazz, it's a 13 trade. So the Jazz received Lonzo Ball in cash. They waived Lonzo Ball. And then the Cavs received 2 seconds. So the Cavs, I give a B. You get off Alonzo for 2 second-round picks. You also add guard depth in Harden, Schroeder, and Gianella. So you don't you add seconds, and you don't need another point guard anymore. So it's a win-win. I give the Jazz a C. You take on some cash and you cut Lonzo. Nothing crazy, just a nothing trade. Give him a C. And then for the Hawks, you give them a couple seconds, but you get Jock Landale, who, he had a really cool story starting after the deadline. So if you didn't know, Jock Landale was originally traded to Utah, like I said earlier. He's about to get on the plane to leave Memphis to go to Utah, and the Jazz call him and say, "Get off the plane. We're trading you to Atlanta." So Jock didn't have a flight to Atlanta. He said, "Screw it. Memphis isn't that far." Gets off the plane, gets in his car, drives all the way to Atlanta, like 5.5, 6 hours, I think, as they said it was on the broadcast, and then suits up for Atlanta that night. And then he has a career high in points and 3-pointers made. And he he ended up helping them beat the Jazz in a close game. Like, they don't beat the Jazz if he doesn't play. The team who just traded him as well, they traded for him and traded him out. That's kind of a cool story in general. And he had a good game. He didn't have that good of a game against the Hornets tonight, but you just got rid of Porzingis. You need some more center depth. He's a very solid center. I really like the fit. And B plus. I like it. And then we got trade 14, another Hornets trade. Shout out to the Hornets. The Hornets received Tyus Jones, who they reroute, and 2 seconds. So I give the Hornets an A for this. And then the Magic just get cash, so they get off of Tyus Jones money. I gave an A for this because I'm a homer. You will see this again later. But when teams trade or take on money and they get picks and that's it, and they cut the guys, it's an A because you're giving up nothing and you're receiving draft capital. It's an A. Can't complain about that at all. And also, I give the Magic a C because they got some money, nothing trade for them. Very middle of the road move. I guess you're happier with your other guards. Tyus Jones had a very good year this year, and your guys like Anthony Black, Jalen Suggs are better. Even you also have like Chase Richardson who's coming up. So you already have two small point guard. You don't need another one. So yeah, that's that trade. The Hornets end up rerouting Tyus Jones in a later trade, which we'll talk about later. Trade 15. The Raptors receive Trace Jackson Davis, and the Warriors receive a second round pick. So gave both of these teams a B. Raptors, they were in the AD and Sabonis sweepstakes. Obviously, AD goes to the Wizards. The Kings hold on to Sabonis, and because you fall short on those, you go ahead and you add some center depth for a second. Not too bad, gives give Pirtle a backup center that you believe in a little bit more. And then the Warriors, you just add Porzingis, so you don't need as much center depth. You also have a lot of center depth anyways. So you get a second for trading away the lowest guy in the totem pole. Like that's not terrible. But yeah. So next trade, another kind of big Bulls trade. Trading away another piece here. The Wolves receive Ayo Dosunmu. I can't ever say his name right. I swear. Ayo. Because it's like there's an N in there. Dosunmu. Like people say Dosunmu, but there's an N in there. Dosunmu, as I should say it. I don't know. Maybe the N's silent. I watch a lot of Bulls games and they feel like they never say the N, but who knows? The Wolves get him, and the Bulls get Rob Dillingham, Leonard Miller in 4 seconds. So I'm gonna give the Bulls like a C plus, right? A C plus because I won't rate it lower than the other trades because you get a lot of seconds back and a young piece in Rob, and you also get Leonard Miller's young too. You get a couple of young guys, but you're still selling too late. You're selling too late on Ayo. Like you could have got more from last year. But the Wolves get an A, man. You give up Rob, who wasn't meshing well with everything. You get Leonard Miller, who wasn't a big piece for you. And you give up a few seconds, and you add some real guard depth on a team that desperately needed it. You're also getting back Mike Conley. So I think Ayo's going to start a point guard for him at this point. That's exciting. That's a big deal for them. And if he doesn't start, he's going to be like, your sixth man as a good defensive point guard who can facilitate and hit, score. That's what they needed. That's what they got. It's very exciting for them. I think it makes the Wolves. It's one of the better Western Conference contender moves. Just in general. It's that, and then I think the Thunder adding Jared McCain is also another one of those bigger moves. Good move for contenders in the West. Trade 17. We're almost there, guys, I promise. The Bulls get Gershon Yabusele, and the Knicks get Dale and Terry, who they later reroute. The Bulls will be here because they got somebody who wasn't a guard. Adding some big depth instead of all the guards. Dale and Terry, wasn't anybody who was crazy important for your future. He had some moments here and there, but he wasn't anything ridiculous. And you add depth in the spot you need. Give him a B. That'd be a little nicer to them this go around because of all the hate I've been giving them. And then for the Knicks, I gave him a B plus because they moved Dale and Terry to the next trade, and I'll talk about it more. But I give him a B plus. I like what they got back for him. So the Pelicans, the next trade, they get Dale and Terry in 2 seconds as well as some cash, and the Knicks get Jose Alvarado. I gave the Pelicans a C. I have not loved most of the moves that Joe Dumars and their front office have made last few months, going back to the draft when they got Derek Queen and they gave their pick to the Hawks. Your team got worse and you had a minimal draft capital. And a guy who is buried behind a bunch of other forwards. You lose that Jose Alvarado, who's been a cool, gritty guy for them. But I guess you have Jeremiah Fears, so I guess you have guards you want to build around, but still, Alvarado was kind of a really fun 6-man, good defender. But hey, and for the Knicks, I gave him an A. Give him an A. You get a gritty backup point guard. You just lost Deuce McBride for the rest of the season. He's out for the regular season at least. Jose is from Brooklyn. he is a Knicks fan. He grew up a Knicks fan. There are pictures of him in Knicks gear as a kid, which is just so cool. He's a tough-nosed defender. He's going to fit what the Knicks want to do. Him next to Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Awesome defense. I know it's the first time that he's one of those little sneak Grand Theft Alvarado steals in the Garden. They're going to lose their minds. And he's going to be fun for the playoffs. I just love the fit, especially losing Deuce McBride for the rest of the season. I love it. Give it an A. Love it. Next trade 19. Another A here. The Lakers get Luke Kennard, and the Hawks get Gabe Vincent in a second-round pick. Give Lakers an A. Luke Kennard is having one of the best statistical shooting seasons of all time. He's shooting 50-50-90 splits right now. And they gave up Gabe Vincent, who every Lakers fan I know hates. Everybody hates Gabe Vincent. And a second-round pick. But it is Lakers' last second-round pick. But then again, you are giving up. You weren't going to get anything else you truly needed for that second-round pick, so you might as well just give it up. The Hawks get that second-round pick and Gabe Vincent. Gabe Vincent, he's on an expiring deal. And he had a second-rounder, so, I can't be too terrible. Like, maybe a B-. I guess I gave it a C+ instead of a C. And you added Kispert, who's better than Kennard overall. But I still think that Luke Kennard was probably worth a little bit more than that, in my opinion. Trade 20. We got the Grizzlies receiving Eric Gordon, who they waived, in a second-round pick, and Philly, who gets a second-round pick. So usually I've given credit to teams who take on a contract and get a pick, but they gave up a second-round pick as well, the Grizzlies. If they would have traded, got Eric Gordon in a second, probably would have given it a B+, an A-, something like that. But because you give a pick as well, it's a nothing trade. And it wasn't even a better second-round pick. It was just another second-round pick in the future from a team. Nothing crazy. Not like it was the Bulls second rounder they got. That's a Pelican second rounder. That's going to be 31 or 32. And then Philly, I gave a B+ because you just basically gave Eric Gordon because you swapped seconds, and you open up a roster spot, which you're converting Dominic Barlow, who's had a really good year, to a full roster spot. So you get a second round pick back. You don't lose a pick, and you get a roster spot to open up Dominic Barlow, and you don't have to be the ones to pay to buy out a contract, which is kind of cool. Trade 22 or trade 21. You got the Bucks. They get Nigel Hayes-Davis and Ousmane Dieng. The Suns, they get Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey, and the Bulls get Nick Richards. So the Bucks, they made a trade, but it wasn't trading Giannis. The Bucks get some depth and some youth, but they don't really need to add anything that's convincing me that Giannis is going to stay. This is such a nothing trade in that regard, and especially with all the rumors with Giannis and them blowing it up. This to be your only trade is kind of weird, kind of just not fun. Just from you're giving up Cole Anthony and Amir Coffey, and you're getting back, I guess, some young forwards and bigs, but still. I give the Suns a B. The Suns get some guard depth. Put out your center room because you have so many centers on the roster. You drafted Kamal Malawach with a 10th pick. He hasn't played much at all. Open up space for him to play, as well as you have Mark Williams this year is doing really well. And then you got the Bulls get Nick Richards. I gave him a C. I would have preferred them. I would have given him a higher pick, a higher grade for adding a center. But I like Ousmane Dieng. They're better. He's a younger guy. You go get a center, which is nice. Because you needed a center. I think Nick Richards is going to be the starting center for the Bulls, which is kind of crazy to think about. Trade 22. The Nets receive Hunter Tyson and a second-round pick, and Hunter Tyson was waived, and then the Nuggets get a second-round pick. So gave the Nets a C. You gave him a second. You got a second. You cut a guy. Nothing trade. And the Nuggets got off a little bit of money, so I gave him a B. Because you got off a little bit of money. That's nice. And then you got the last big trade right here is the Pacers receive Ivica Zubac and Kobe Brown, and the Clippers receive Benedict Mathurin, Isaiah Jackson, a 2029 first-round pick, one second-round pick, and then the Pacers' first-round pick this year, top 4 protected and 10 through 30 protected. That will convey to a 2031 Pacers pick if it does not convey this. So I gave the Pacers a B- to an A+. I'll tell you why. This is the one that I have ranges on because stylistically, Zubac is a little bit weird of a weird fit for the Pacers because I think he's going to clog the paint a little bit for Siakam, who's likes to feed kind of in there in the mid range and having a good inside game. And before you had Miles Turner, who spaced the floor. Obviously, you didn't want to pay him, so you get Zubac, who's on a good deal. He's a good center, so that's why and he's proven. So I'm cool with him. And then I gave the Clippers a C to an A-. Here's why there's fluctuations here. I'm happy the Clippers blew it up. Don't get me wrong. I probably should have been like a B to an A- on this one, honestly. They had Mathurin, who I'm excited about as a young piece, especially with a running mate with Garland in the future. I'm excited about that. But the 2026 protections on this pick are crazy. Top 4 protected. So if the jumps top 4, the Pacers get it. But it's also 10 through 30 protected. So if it drops, I think the Clippers out of that half the protection. If it drops, a couple of guys, let's say the Pacers, you're adding Zubac, you're going to get better this year. Pacers win a couple more games to end the year because also Rick Carlisle is the guy who's going to tank. So let's say they end up with the eighth best odds. If 2 teams from behind them jump and they end up at the 10th pick, then it also conveys that 2031 Pacers pick, which is a backup plan for them. But let's say this pick somehow falls in that sweet spot, 5 to 9. That's a really good pick for this Clippers team who needs to add young talent. That's an A- to maybe even higher than that. Any of the crazy names like your DeBansas, your Petersons, your Boozers, your Wilsons. But other than that, you get potentially a really good, other guard to run next to Garland. And I mean, if it ends up at the 5th pick, that's crazy. But if it ends up as a top pick, the Pacers win and they get an A+. You get Zubac and a top 5 pick, top 4 pick. That's craziness. That'd be crazy. And that makes the Pacers the biggest winner of the deadline, in my opinion, if that happens. The lottery this year is going to be nuts, and I'm very excited that that's going to happen. It's exciting to me. The lottery is going to be crazy. And then we have 2 more not nothing trades, both involving the Hornets. Shout out the Hornets. Love the Hornets. The Hornets received Malachi Branham from the Mavericks, who received Tyus Jones. Both those were part of other trades earlier. So both the players were rerouted. Gave them both a B because I think the Mavericks needed more point guard depth. The Hornets add another shooter, a guy shooting 40% over the last 2 years from 3 as the end of the bench guy. Love that. I love that. And then your 25th trade. I'm talking about 20 picks. 25th trade. The Hornets receive Xavier Tillman, and the Celtics receive Cash. I gave both of these a B because the Hornets lost Mason Plumlee with an injury and then by the trade, and they only have 2 centers on the roster now. So you have that 3rd center with a little bit of playoff experience. As the Hornets are looking to make a push, he also played, Tillman's had a couple of good playoff games, so that's exciting to look at there. And the Celtics get off some money, and they're really worried about having the aprons and the having that availability. So they just get off some money. So honestly, this trade deadline was really fun. A little bit more hectic than I thought it was going to be. And I think it started a little earlier than it usually does. Usually it's all the last day. But with the whole Mark Williams stuff happening last year, a lot of teams wanted to give the teams a day so they could amend trades if they had to. So the Hornets, they gave up 3 seconds when they wanted to get Kobe White. But a calf injury was worse than they thought it was when they traded for him. So the Bulls amended the trade and only took on 2 second-round picks. So I think you're going to see in the future teams making more trades a day or 2 before the deadline, just to be safe and cover that. But no Giannis trade obviously, but we got Jaren Jackson Jr., Trae Young, Anthony Davis. These some big moves, man. Exciting moves, and I'm excited. The Hornets are fun. I'm going to make another video about the Hornets here in a minute. I think just talking about that. But thank you so much for watching. This has been a blast talking about deadline stuff. Like I said, follow me on my platforms. I'm going to link them below. This means so much to me. I've been growing so much on all my platforms and everything, and getting a lot of support, and that means the world. So, just appreciate you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, do all the things you're supposed to do when you like a video. All my links for all my short stuff is in the description below. Or you're like, if you just want to stay on YouTube, all my shorts are on my YouTube channel as well. Been putting out some stuff there too. Need to put out some more. Just been so busy with work. But I've been getting some new sports jobs I can't talk about right now, but I have some new jobs coming in. Where I'm getting to the point now where I forget what more job I might quit my actual job, which is crazy to talk about, crazy to think about how much I've grown. But that's because of people watching, and that means a lot. I mean, I've been getting paid to do other things, so I haven't been able to, do my passion project, which is this stuff. But if you're watching this video, you definitely have supported me before, and that means the world. And if this is your first video somehow, please subscribe. I'm going to try to put out more stuff. And look at all my other platforms. I'm on every Hornets box score. I'm writing on that. So if you're a Hornets fan, you're probably most of my people here are Hornets fans. Go follow that. Go follow the Substack. Because we talk about the games every day. Do all that. It's a great time. Great write-ups. Doug Branson, he's amazing there. I'm covering the Hornets. I'm covering the Hawks on Sleeper Fantasy. Another blessing that I have. So follow me there on the Twitter. And I'm just, working hard to work hard. But thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you guys. I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy basketball. Enjoy life. I'll see you later.